Like to say good afternoon um, to my brothers and sisters out there. We still gonna be dealing with some simple principles. Now, I want to paint a couple of pictures for understanding's sake. Let's take the alphabet for instance. Let's take the ABCs for instance. Anybody that's past kindergarten could count the ABC principles as of the least most importance. You know why? Because they have already learned their letters, they already learned the alphabet, and they have already learned how to put together words. And so once you get those simple principles learned, it's easy to just go on and graduate to greater things. As a matter of fact, the book of Hebrews in the 7th chapter tells us, you know what I'm saying, therefore let us go on and leave these ABC principles of the baptism and the laying on the hands and the resurrection and go on and grow into maturity. But oftentimes it be those same simple principles that we forget are the most important things for our building. Because if you go and deal with somebody who's a scholar or a college graduate or somebody that has a PhD and a master's degree, I assure you that the last thing that comes into their mind as far as being of the utmost importance is the simple alphabet. The simple A, B, C, D, E, F, G. But the reality is that without those simple principles, how would you educate yourself? How could you be educated without it? So I'm saying that to make you understand that it's the simple things that are most important for our building. Now, to our younger brothers and sisters that are walking in the faith, there are some simple principles that you need to understand if you're going to go on and do the work, if you're going to ever be equipped for an evangelistic type of ministry, if you're ever going to be equipped for leadership, then you're going to need to understand these simple principles. Many of our educated, learned people have forgotten about these principles right here. So I'm going to paint you a picture so that you can understand where we're going. Say, for instance, you are a parent. Now, we're going to also draw lines of distinction between the way the older folks done things opposed to the way that this newer generation is doing them. Now, in my day, if you sent your child to go to a sleepover at some of their school's friends or like to a slumber party or something of that nature, we would talk to the parents and we would make them understand, hey, I don't tolerate no foolishness out of my child. So if my child acts up, I want you to whoop his behind or whoop her behind, because they know not to go no anywhere and just be acting any kind of way because I have not raised them like that. And so hypothetically saying that your child started acting up and then that other parent done what you instructed them to do. They don't have to call you. They just done it. They carried out chastisement on that child. Well, the natural response from that child would be to be angry at the one that has the belt in their hand, because they are totally oblivious to the fact that the one with the belt in their hand received instruction of the one whose child you were. Why am I saying this? Because our younger brothers and sisters need to understand these principles where your purpose is concerned as an Israelite. Okay? Because the Most High is the eternal parent, and he is the father of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, whose children we are. All right? But as he sent us into the world with a purpose, there are some instructions that have gone out before us where our obedience to his word is concerned. And he said, long as these children are operating in my word, that's going to be wonderful. That's going to be wonderful. But if they fail to operate in my word, then I'm going to instruct some to bring chastisement upon them for their disobedience, because they are not given a proper representation of who I am as their parent. What am I saying? As our young brothers and sisters come into knowledge of the truth and they start looking for how they're going to do things or how they're going to get things done, the first thing that we seem to be gravitating toward is a group of people out here talking about the white man is the devil, destroying everything. I'm not saying that the white man's not the devil. The only thing that I'm saying is that whatever he or any other nation is doing, it is because they have received specific instructions from the Most High to become a belt or a rod of correction for his people, for their disobedience. All right? So, many of our brothers are angry as a child would be at somebody else's parent that whoops them. The natural response is to be angry at the person that's holding the belt, as it is with us as a people. When we start looking at slavery and we start looking at the heinous crimes that were committed against us as a people, when we start looking at the oppression in our communities, that comes from all of the other people, the other nations, the Asian man who owns all of the beauty industry, the Arab man who owns all of the grocery stores and everything, the East Indian man who owns all of the gas stations, the African man who is owning car lots and in your medical arena, the European man who pretty much owns everything else. When we see the oppression that these people are putting on our people, the natural, and I'm going to say the natural because there's a line of distinction that runs from between what's natural and what's spiritual. The natural response is to be angry with the one that is doing these things, or with the one that is oppressing you or have the belt in his hand. However, the spiritual response is to understand that it is the Most High that done these things. And when we look at scripture, it says, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe the scripture says, and the Lord shall send thee into Egypt again, into bondage again with ships. It is the Lord that said, you shall be sold to your enemies for male and female slaves. It is the Lord that said, no man from amongst your people would be able to deliver you from this situation. If I am wrong, correct me. Deuteronomy 28:64 says, and the Lord shall scatter thee from the one end of the earth, even unto the other. And there you shall serve false religions. It is the Lord that said these people would learn us falsehoods and false religions as a means to diminish us. It is the Lord that said those things will happen, right? So if that be the case, why is it so much anger and hatred directed at the one that has the belt in his hand, when the reality is that if I had never been disobedient, the one with the belt would never have to use the instruction that was given to them to chastise me. Now, So we cleared that up. Sometimes we have to just ask ourselves some simple questions. Let's start with this one here. I'm going to read the scripture, and then I'm going to ask you a question. Pay attention to the questions that I ask, because I would like some feedback. I would like somebody to respond to the answers of these questions. Let's go to Psalms. Let's go to Psalms 147, verse 19 and 20. It reads, He showed his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. He had not dealt so with any other nation. As for his judgments, they have not known them. Praise ye the Most High. Here's the question. Why would the Most High show his word and his statutes and his judgments to the house of Israel? What was the overall purpose for him to release something to Israelites that had never been released to no other nation? What was the purpose for him doing that? When all of the other nations were already on the earth, they had no idea of anything that was dealing with the Most High. The nation of Israel is the youngest nation that was birthed into existence. I want to know why he showed something to Israel that he never showed to any of the other nations that were already here. What was the purpose for it? Because it's only when you can answer this question that your feet will land in the spot that they're supposed to be in. So think about it. Think about it. Let's go look at another scripture. Let's look at another scripture. Let's look at, ask yourself a question to this scripture too. Amos, 3rd chapter, 1st verse. Speak this unto the whole house of Israel. Out of all the families that were already in the earth, I've only known you. And because I've only known you, I'm going to punish you greatly. Now, do you think that the Father was punishing us just because he showed us his word? No. He showed us his word because there was something that he intended for us to get done where the other nations were concerned. So, he said, I am going to punish you greatly. You see, nobody can punish or chastise the Father's people but the Father. And if we ever read the story of Balaam and Balak, we would understand that nobody was able to curse the children of Israel. Nobody was able to curse them or deal treacherously with them when they were operating in what the Father had commanded them. But Balaam said, we have to find a way to get them to go against. We have to find a way to get them to be disobedient to the purpose that the Father set for them. And as a result, we receive punishment. But the problem is, why do you think the Father showed you his word out of all of the other people that was already here? And why do you think because the Father showed you his word, he is now punishing you for it. A couple of questions. I'll be waiting for some feedback.